Chester and Gus by Cammie McGovern. How to tell on someone. As Sarah readies a bag to take Gus to the hospital where he doesn't want to go, I try to distract her with other things. "No, Chester, not now," she says. "Look at this, Mark. Chester thinks it's time for a walk because I've got my jacket on." "I'm sorry, Chester. No walks now. We have to go. Cora will stop by later and take you for a walk." Oh, if only I could tell her that Cora never leaves the yard for our walks. They're not really walks. They're embarrassing trips down our back step and back up again. "Do you need to go pee, Chess? Mark, can you let him outside before we go?" Mark opens the door, but I don't move. I need them to stop what they're doing and think for a minute. Gus didn't have a seizure. Gus had boys on the playground do something mean to him. I didn't understand why Gus liked to stand near the tunnel where Ed hides. It was dark and loud and scary to me, so I didn't stay. But Gus is different from me. He's afraid of many things, but he likes dark, scary places. He likes Fright Fest and Ed, and that spot underneath the climbing structure is like visiting Fright Fest every day. Ed plays mean games there. He jumps out at little kids. That's his idea of recess fun. Gus is crying now. He doesn't want to go back to the hospital. "Tell them," I say. "Tell them what happened." Mark says, "Are you going to call ahead or just take him to the ER and wait?" "I'll call, I guess. Does that mean you're not coming with us?" "I'm not sure it helps to have us both there. Plus, someone should walk Chess. He's obviously antsy. Why don't I come in a few hours and give you a break?" "No," I say, sitting near the chair. "Talk to Gus first." Come on, Gus. I got your bag packed. It'll be okay. I've got your headphones and your music and 2 sparkly pens. You can't have them both at once, but we'll play games while we wait. Come on, babe, let's go." He's sitting up now. He's dressed with his shoes on and a jacket over his shoulders. He doesn't want to go, I know, but it's more than that. His feet are glued to the ground. He can't go. He can't move. "Can you tell them what happened?" I say. "Did Ed do this to you?" For the first time since he's gotten home, I hear him speak. He winces. "Yes." It's harder to hear him inside voice now because his outside voice is getting louder. His mouth is saying, "Ba, ba, ba." Because his ears don't want to hear what he's saying, his mouth can't tell his mom and dad what happened any more than mine can. "It's okay," I say. "Go with your mom. We'll figure out a way to tell them what happened." He doesn't stand up right away, but eventually he follows his mom out to the car. After they leave, Mark paces around for a long time. I follow him into his bedroom because I'm nervous too and I didn't want to be alone. I watch him change his clothes. I watch him lie down on the bed, read a newspaper for a minute, then stand back up. I watch him walk into the bathroom, pull a string through his teeth, and walk back out. Finally, he takes me for a short walk and then says, "I'm sorry, Chester. I've got to go check on them. I've got to find out what's happening." He fills my bowl with food 2 hours before dinner and sloshes some water next to it. "You'll be okay, right? Do you want me to leave the radio on?" We're all nervous, remembering the last trip to the hospital. "No radio," I say with my eyes. "I need time to think and make plans." "Yeah," he says. "You're right. The radio's dumb." Dark night. I hear my dog friends in the distance barking at the moon, and the sound makes me feel lonely and sad. I don't have anything in common with these other dogs. A language, maybe, but what does that mean when we see each other out in the street and have nothing to say? My heart is with my people. When they finally get home, Gus is with them, which is a relief, but they're all tired, I can tell. They turn on the light by the front door and whisper to each other. "I'll get his medicine," Sarah says. "You take him up to bed." After all this waiting, that's all I hear. No one says anything to me. The next morning, Gus stays home from school. The bandage over his nose is bigger now, and he looks like he's wearing sunglasses underneath, except it's skin. Purple, yellow skin sunglasses. After breakfast, Sarah calls the school. "Mr. McGregor, please," she says in an unfriendly voice. It makes me nervous. I get up from my bed and sit near the phone so maybe I can hear what he says on the other end. Sarah sees me and says, "No treats now, Chester. You haven't even eaten your breakfast yet." I do like my treats, but this isn't where I sit to get them. How can I make her understand? When she starts talking to Mr. McGregor, she moves around so much I have a hard time following her conversation. "The hospital couldn't determine if he had a seizure or not, but this incident has shaken our faith in the school's ability to keep Gus safe. Mark and I have talked about this, and we both agree that we can't send Gus back to school for the time being. We're going to keep him at home." She opens the refrigerator and closes it again. She moves over to the table and sits down. "He wasn't safe at school, Mr. McGregor. The doctors have already written letters in support of this idea. If you want to stop by our house and look at Gus's face, I'm sure you would agree with me as well." Poor Sarah. I think Gus can't tell her what happened. She has to do something. And this is the only thing she can think of. I hear other snippets. She calls her mother and tells her the whole story. The hospital answers to increase his medication until he does nothing but sleep all day. I don't know what else to do. Her mother must ask about me because she leans over and bets my ears. "No, Chester's not allowed at school anymore because he's not an official service dog. I talked to the principal again about this, and he said the most they could allow would be for Chester to come to school during recess time. He isn't allowed back in the building. I don't see much point when he gets swarmed by little girls on the playground. I don't think Gus goes near him outside." I move closer to Sarah so she knows I'm listening to all this. It isn't true what she's saying. Girls swarm me for a few minutes on the playground and then they leave me alone. The rest of the time I spend with Gus. If I went back, I could at least watch out for Ed. I could keep Gus away from him. That would be something. No, he was never trained for that. Yes, he was the one who found Gus, right? I've heard a little about that. Maybe I'll do some research. It's not a bad idea. After she hung up, instead of telling me what she was talking about on the phone, Sarah spends the rest of the day taking care of Gus and researching on the computer. "Do you want to hear what I learned today?" she tells Mark the minute he walks in the door that night. "Remember, we talked about making Chester a seizure dog, but we assumed that if he didn't pass the standard service dog training, there's no way he could learn something this specialized. Well, guess what?" Mark smiles. "He can." "Not yet, but he might be able to. Here's what I found out. There are seizure response dogs who are trained to recognize when a seizure is happening. They get help, fetch medicine, move their person away from stairs, things like that. Dogs can be trained for that part using trainers who know how to mimic seizures." Mark looks down at me. He hasn't seen me mail a letter or open a door. He doesn't think I can do these things. But here's the most interesting part. About 30% of the dogs who work with epileptic people develop the ability to alert them 15 to 20 minutes before a seizure begins. They can sense it before the person feels anything. Isn't that amazing? No one has any idea how they do it. "Smell," I tell her. "We smell it." They think it might be smell, but they've done all these tests and their machines don't detect anything. I remember the afternoon of Gus's seizure at school, how I finally found him in the closet. It was a very scary smell. It made my heart race. It could also be they notice fingers twitches or changes in breathing patterns. "No," I say. "How would I notice that?" They say maybe it comes from having a connection to the person. Some dogs tune in on their person but wouldn't be able to recognize a seizure in someone unfamiliar. Sure, I think. Seizures smell terrible, but so do lots of people for different reasons. Because it's so mysterious, there's no way to train the dog to do it. They can't practice the skill by finding people on the brink of having a seizure, so the only way for a dog to get qualified is by doing it once. That's all it takes. And if a dog proves he can do that, then we could tell the school it's medically necessary for him to be in the classroom with Gus. Sarah's so happy at the prospect that it makes me nervous. I go to the TV room where Gus is watching a TV show by himself, which I've never seen him do before. Usually he watches TV only when his parents force him to watch something with them. I didn't think he knew how to turn it on. I don't think he was interested. I sit down next to him and watch for a little while. It's a show about people who get dirty for a job. I don't understand it. Are you really watching this, or are you having a seizure? I'm watching. And the point is they get dirty doing this stuff? It's funny. We watch for a while. A man gets covered in a black suit and smiles at the camera. Behind him, there's steam coming from a machine. It looks a little like Mama's machine. Does your face still hurt? A little. Do you want to go back to school tomorrow? He doesn't answer me. After a long time, I realized I probably shouldn't have asked. It ended our nicest conversation in a while.